It was just another Tuesday morning. The kind where sunlight filtered through kitchen curtains in soft, golden streaks, and the coffee maker hummed its familiar rhythm. I was wiping down the counter, planning dinner in my head, when I heard a sound so subtle I almost missed it. The front door, closing, but not the way it usually did. Not with that confident click my husband always made before leaving for work. This time, it closed slowly, hesitantly, like someone didn't want to be heard. I froze, dishcloth in hand, staring at the hallway. My heart did this strange little flutter, the kind you get when something feels off. I couldn't name it then. I couldn't put words to the heaviness that settled in my chest. But looking back now, I know exactly what that moment was. It was the beginning of the end of everything I thought I knew. I didn't know it then, but that morning, that quiet, ordinary Tuesday, would reveal the truth I had ignored for 27 years. Before we go any further, let me know in the comments where you're listening from. I'd love to hear from you. And if you're new here, hit that subscribe button so you never miss the stories that matter. 27 years. That's how long we'd been married. 27 years of shared meals, shared bills, shared beds. 27 years of thinking I knew the man who slept beside me every night. But did I really? Who was he? Truly? Behind the smile he gave me every morning, behind the "I love you" he said before bed, what had been hiding there? And more terrifyingly, had our entire marriage been built on truth or illusion? These weren't questions I wanted to ask. They weren't questions I was ready for. But life has a cruel way of forcing us to face the things we've spent years avoiding. That slow closing door, it was the crack in the wall I'd built around my denial. And once it started, there was no stopping what came pouring through. Let me take you back. Not to that Tuesday morning, not yet, but to the beginning, to when things still made sense. I met Daniel when I was 24 years old. He was 26, working as an accountant at a mid-sized firm downtown. I was a substitute teacher, still figuring out what I wanted to do with my life. We met at a friend's barbecue, one of those warm summer evenings where everything feels possible. He made me laugh, really laugh, the kind that makes your stomach hurt and your eyes water. We dated for 2 years before he proposed. It wasn't flashy, just the two of us on a beach at sunset, his hands trembling as he pulled the ring from his pocket. I said yes without hesitation. I loved him. I trusted him. I believed in us. Our marriage wasn't perfect. No marriage is. We had our struggles. Money was tight in the early years. We argued about small things, whose turn it was to do the dishes, whether we should paint the living room blue or gray, why he worked late so often. But we always worked through it. We always came back to each other, or at least, I thought we did. Daniel was dependable, steady, the kind of man who remembered to pick up milk on the way home, who called when he'd be late, who never raised his voice even when I raised mine. He wasn't passionate or spontaneous, but I didn't need that. I needed someone I could count on, someone who wouldn't leave. And for 27 years, he didn't. But there were signs, small ones, the kind you ignore because acknowledging them feels too dangerous. Like the way he sometimes stared out the window with this faraway look, as if he were somewhere else entirely, or how he'd flinch just slightly when I asked about his day, or the nights when he'd come home smelling like cigarette smoke, even though he'd quit years ago. "Someone at the office smokes," he'd say with a shrug. "It gets in your clothes." And I believed him. Because what else was I supposed to do? We had a routine. Wake up at 6:30, coffee together in silence, the comfortable kind, or so I told myself. He'd leave for work by 7:45. I'd clean the house, run errands, meet a friend for lunch if I was lucky. He'd come home around 6, we'd eat dinner, watch TV, go to bed, repeat. It wasn't exciting, but it was safe, predictable, mine. Until that Tuesday morning when the door closed too slowly. I should have let it go. That's what I told myself. He probably just had his hands full. Maybe he was on the phone. Maybe he was distracted. But I couldn't shake it. That feeling. That whisper in the back of my mind saying, asterisk, something's wrong, asterisk. So I did something I'd never done before. I went to his study. Daniel's study was his sanctuary, a small room at the back of the house where he kept his files, his computer, his work stuff. I rarely went in there, not because he forbade it, he never did, but because it was his time's space, and I respected that. But that morning, I walked in. The room smelled like old paper and coffee. His desk was cluttered with folders and sticky notes, his computer monitor dark. I stood there for a moment, feeling like an intruder in my own home, my heart pounding in my chest. Asterisk. Just leave, asterisk, I told myself. Asterisk. You're being paranoid. Asterisk. But then I saw it. A phone. Not his usual phone, the one I knew, the one he carried everywhere. This was different. Smaller. Older. A flip phone, tucked beneath a stack of papers on the corner of his desk. My hands trembled as I picked it up. I don't know what I expected to find. Maybe nothing. Maybe everything. I flipped it open. The screen lit up. No password, no lock. And there it was. A single text message from a number I didn't recognize. Asterisk. Can't wait to see you tonight. Same place? Asterisk. My stomach dropped. The room tilted. I gripped the edge of the desk to steady myself, my breath coming in short, shallow gasps. No. This couldn't be real. There had to be an explanation. A mistake. I scrolled up. More messages. Dozens of them. Months of them. Miss you already. Asterisk. Last night was perfect. Asterisk. When can we do this again? Asterisk. The phone slipped from my hands and clattered onto the desk. I staggered backward, my mind racing, my chest tight. 27 years. 27 years. And this entire time, I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. All I could do was stand there, staring at that phone, as the life I thought I knew crumbled around me. Asterisk. If this story has your heart racing, comment, I'm still watching. Let me see who's still with me. Asterisk. I didn't confront him that night. I couldn't. I didn't know how. When Daniel came home at 6, carrying takeout because he'd texted earlier saying not to cook, I smiled. I ate. I pretended everything was fine. But inside, I was screaming. Every word he said felt like a lie. Every glance felt like betrayal. When he kissed my forehead and said, "Good night, love," I had to bite my tongue to keep from shouting, asterisk, who is she? How long has this been going on? Asterisk. But I didn't, because saying it out loud would make it real, and I wasn't ready for that. Instead, I started watching him, noticing things I'd overlooked before, the way he angled his phone away from me when a notification came through, the nights he claimed to be working late, but came home smelling like perfume, not cigarettes, perfume. The sudden business trips that seemed to come out of nowhere. I checked his phone, the regular one, but it was clean, too clean. No suspicious texts, no unknown numbers. He'd been careful, but he'd slipped up with that second phone. I wanted to confront him. God, I wanted to scream and cry and demand answers. But fear held me back. Fear of what I'd hear. Fear that the man I'd spent 27 years loving had never really existed. So instead, I did something I never thought I'd do. I followed him. It was a Thursday night. He said he had a late meeting, kissed me goodbye at 5:30 and left. I waited 10 minutes, grabbed my keys, and drove after him. My hands shook on the steering wheel. My heart pounded so hard I thought it might burst. Part of me hoped I was wrong. Hoped I'd follow him to his office and realize I was just being paranoid. But I wasn't wrong. He didn't go to his office. He went to a restaurant on the other side of town, a quiet place with dim lighting and outdoor seating. And there, at a corner table, was a woman. She was younger than me, maybe early 42nds. Dark hair, bright smile, and when Daniel sat down across from her, she reached across the table and took his hand. I sat in my car across the street, frozen, watching, as they laughed. as they leaned in close, as he looked at her the way he used to look at me. I wanted to march over there, to throw open the door and demand an explanation. But I couldn't move. I could barely breathe. I drove home in silence, tears streaming down my face, and lay in bed staring at the ceiling until he came home at 10, smelling like her perfume, and whispered, "Sorry, I'm so late." Meeting ran over, and I said nothing. I confronted him 3 days later. I couldn't take it anymore. The pretending, the silence, the weight of knowing crushing me from the inside out. He was in the kitchen, making coffee. I walked in, holding the flip phone, my hands trembling. "What is this?" My voice cracked. He turned, and the color drained from his face. For a moment, he said nothing, just stared at the phone. At me. "Where did you find that?" he finally asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "Does it matter?" I shot back. "Who is she, Daniel? How long has this been going on?" He set down his mug, ran a hand through his hair, and then, to my shock, he started to cry. Not quiet tears, not controlled emotion. He sobbed, deep, shuddering sobs that shook his whole body. "I'm sorry," he choked out. "God, I'm so sorry." I wanted to feel sympathy. I wanted to comfort him, but all I felt was rage. "How long?" I demanded. 5 years. 5 years. 5 years of lies. 5 years of another woman. 5 years of my life wasted on a man who didn't even have the decency to be honest. But then he said something that made the ground shift beneath my feet. "I didn't want to hurt you," he whispered. "I didn't know how to tell you. I didn't even understand it myself for the longest time." "Tell me what?" I asked, my voice cold. He looked up at me, eyes red and swollen. And in that moment, I saw something I'd never seen before. Fear, shame, vulnerability. "Her name is Marcus." I blinked. "What?" "The person I've been seeing. His name is Marcus." The room went silent. My brain struggled to process his words. "I'm gay," Daniel said, his voice breaking. "I've known for years, maybe always. I tried to ignore it, tried to be the husband you deserved, but I couldn't anymore. I couldn't keep pretending." I stared at him, speechless. This wasn't the truth I'd been expecting. This was something else entirely. Something that shattered everything I thought I knew, not just about him, but about us. We divorced 6 months later. It was quiet, civil, painful in ways I didn't expect. I was angry for a long time, not just at Daniel, but at myself, for not seeing it, for ignoring the signs, for wasting 27 years on a marriage that was built on a foundation of fear and denial. But as time passed, the anger faded, and what remained was something more complicated: sadness, grief, but also understanding. Daniel hadn't set out to hurt me. He'd been running from himself, and I'd gotten caught in the crossfire. Was that fair? No. Did it make the betrayal easier? Not really, but it made it more human. We spoke once, about a year after the divorce. He apologized again, told me he was living with Marcus now, that he was happier than he'd ever been. And I told him I was happy for him, and I meant it. Because here's what I learned. Love isn't always enough. Truth matters. Honesty matters. And sometimes, the kindest thing you can do is let someone go. I've rebuilt my life, slowly, carefully. I've learned to trust again, to open my heart again. And I've learned that my worth isn't tied to someone else's choices. That slow closing door, it didn't end my life. It opened a new one. So here's my question for you. What would you have done? Could you have forgiven? Could you have walked away? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And if this story moved you, if it made you think or feel or reflect, please subscribe. Because there are more stories like this. Stories about love, loss, truth, and the courage it takes to face them. Thank you for listening. I'll see you in the next one.